Hey guys, so welcome. This is the a sales seminar, but really how do you create your own online branding to strengthen your sales ability? So we're going to go over this today. I have a special presentation on how you can strengthen your online presence, how you can make your brand pervasive to your market, and how you can actually increase your sales tenfold. So how to improve your branding online, that's the name of this. And basically, let's scroll up here. There's three core essentials of branding. You have to create beyond the tangible elements of branding. So tangible means things you can touch, and we're going to go over this in detail. You have to know your audience, and then you got to make them understand that you understand them. Last, be unique and tell your story. Really let people know who you are, who your company is, and what it stands for. So first, to build a strong brand, it's built on symbols that you can see, like your logo, what colors you use, what kind of fonts, the videos that you make. All these are tangible because people can see them and smell them and touch them and hear them over and over again. The intangible is the image that you create of your company. And that image resides in people's minds and hearts. So the intangible is, how do they feel when they see your message? How do they feel when they see your story? When they understand your purpose is a really good purpose and that it actually will improve their life, they feel better. So there's a personality that you're trying to create so that you stand out above all the noise. What's intangible, really? What's the best example you can think of intangible? How about Michael Jordan and Nike? You know, Nike offered Michael Jordan like $100,000 a year, whatever the number was, to let them use his name on their shoes and for him to go out and be a brand ambassador for Nike. He said, "Nuh-uh, I want you to make me a shoe just for me, the Michael Jordan shoe, and I want a royalty." Well, today, Michael Jordan hasn't played basketball for years, and yet I was just talking to a friend who got a new pair of Air Jordans, and they were so excited about it because the intangible piece of the story is Michael Jordan became fantastically great and famous around the world as a basketballer. And the shoes were so incredibly beautiful in so many different unique styles. And it was Air Jordans. I mean, people who put on Air Jordans, they think they can fly. I want to be like Mike. I want to be able to be the best basketball player. Now, honestly, this intangible was so well created that it helped make Michael Jordan a multi-millionaire just from that shoe. It's the mystique, it's the aura that you get when you have a Michael Jordan shoe. That's intangible. All right, now, who exactly are you selling to? Can you answer the questions about who your public is? For example, what's their family status? Are they single? Are they married? What's their age range? Is it teenagers? Is it children? Is it young adults? What do they do for work? How much money do they make? What are their shopping habits? Where do they go to buy anything? Your target audience isn't a mass of people. It's one person. It's one type of person that you're looking for. Because if you can sell to each individual, you will then reach a large portion of a group of people that are similar. Now, I have a short video here. It's a couple minutes long, but this explains how specific you need to get in your marketing.
And somebody asked them, said, "Hey, I'm building a podcast." And the first thing JLD asked is like, "Well, who's it for?" And they're like, "Well, it's for this kind of person, this kind of person, this kind of person." And he's like, "There's your problem." He's like, "You need to be able to identify exactly who your person is." And then he went into this like state where he just shared exactly who his dream customer, his dream client was. And I've never, in the history of me doing this business, which is now 14 or 15 years, heard someone more perfectly explain their customer avatar than JLD did at that moment. And I'm so glad we got on film. So I'm going to play that clip for you right now so you can see exactly what he said. And as you're listening to this, I want you thinking through that, because that is how clear you have to be on exactly who your customer is. And that way you create your product, your podcast, your whatever it is you're doing, you match it to your customer, and that is the secret. So let me show you that clip right now.
So who's your perfect listener?
Our perfect listener would be a business owner or an entrepreneur or a real estate investor.
So that's really vague. Like perfect listener should just be that one individual that like you would see as like the perfect ideal client. Because once you've kind of made that step and that decision as a podcast host, everything changes. Yeah. So like for me, when I was trying to figure out like what I wanted Entrepreneur on Fire to be, I was overwhelmed because it was really hard for me to kind of find what that path that I wanted to take my listeners on. And when I really sat down and said, okay, my listener is my avatar is Jimmy. He's 37 years old. He has a wife and 2 kids, ages 3 and 5. He drives by himself to work every single day. It's a 25-minute commute to work. He gets to a cubicle at a job he hates for 9 hours. Gets done with his job, drives home. It's a 35-minute commute home because he gets stuck in a little bit of traffic. Gets home, he hangs out with his kids, has dinner with his family, puts his kids to bed, hangs out with his wife, and then he has a little Jimmy pity party at the end of every single night because he's sitting on the couch saying, why do I spend 90% of my waking hours doing things I don't enjoy doing? Commuting to a job I don't like, being at a job I don't like, commuting home, and only 10% of my waking hours doing things that I love, like spending time with my kids and my family. And Jimmy is my avatar. Like he's the person that as he's driving to work should be listening to Entrepreneur on Fire so that when my guest is sharing their worst entrepreneurial moments, he can understand that it's okay to fail and like that you can learn lessons from failure, and that when he's driving home and my guest talks about their aha moment, he can talk about how you take an aha moment and turn it into success. And then instead of having that pity party at night, by himself on a couch, he can listen to the lightning round where my guest is sharing their best advice they've ever had, their favorite book, their favorite resource. And so he can start to put together the pieces of the puzzle. And so for me now, whenever I come up to any question I have about the direction of my podcast, I go to my avatar and I say, WWJD. Like, what would Jimmy do? And like, I know from that one answer, like that's the way that I got to go. So if you sit down and you really say, hey, this is the one perfect listener of my podcast, then you're going to know that person inside and out. You're going to know where that person hangs out, what Facebook groups they're in, what LinkedIn groups they're in, like how to advertise to them, like what lead magnet is going to be appealing to them on Facebook that's going to get them to download it and then be able to be promoted to your show. And again, this is your ideal perfect client. Like you can probably picture right now this person that whenever he sits down in front of you, you're just like, dude, you're like my favorite client. And he's like, I know, I'm your favorite client. And like, that's the person that like you want to be drawing in. So like if you sit down and really just figure out who your perfect one ideal listener is, everything changes from that point forward. And all the decisions you make are based off of that. And so,
how do you show that you understand your audience? To have people know that you are a real person, that your company's real, that it actually does what it says it's going to do, that it's going to deliver the promise. Well, you have to show empathy. You have to show that you understand your audience, that you know how they feel, you know what they think, you know what they want. This is empathy. Authenticity. Are you really who you say you are? Does your online presence match your actual company? Could you take a video of where you make your product and people go, wow, that's awesome. That's interesting. It's real. That's authenticity. A recent social media survey showed that 86% of the customers crave authenticity. They know there's a bunch of BS on the internet. They know there's a bunch of unreal people. They know there's a bunch of scams. So you need to demonstrate transparency and show that your brand is real and that you are real and your story is real. Now, what's your story? People say you got to use stories in sales. You got to use stories in online. Okay, but what stories? Tell your story. Work on your story. Well, number one, a lot of people don't think their story is important. Number two, a lot of people don't think their own story is interesting. And number three, a lot of people are afraid to tell their own story. So if you can handle these 3 things and understand, you can make your story interesting. And I guarantee you that with practice, you can tell a great story about how you got to where you got, especially if your product is something that helps people improve their life in some way, which most successful products help people have a better life in some part of their life. So here's an example. When I was a manager for one of my friends who was a chiropractor, I was a Navy officer. I was stationed near his clinic, and how I met him was one day when I was 24, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't stand up. So I crawled out of bed, crawled in the car, and I got driven to the chiropractor's office. He saved me. Since that day, I've never had an episode like that. I'm 62. So I loved this guy. And so when I went to work for him, I went out to the malls and everywhere. And every time I talked to people, I told my story of success with this chiropractor. And I got so good at this story and I made it so interesting that people would just listen. And then I used to do a free analysis of their back. So I would look and I would line them up and I would, touch them and I'd say, hold on. Is this where you hurt the most? Because after looking at their lineup and everything else, I learned where to find out where their pain point was. And I would touch them gently and press gently, and they'd go, ow. They go, how did you know that? Because I'm a nuclear engineer. I can't fix you though, but the chiropractor can. This story brought in thousands and thousands of patients who then later thanked me for telling them the story and thanked him for actually doing something about the story. So that's an example of one story. Branding plus sales plus an online presence. What does this get you? 2022, over $1 trillion was spent in online sales. So branding, you have a strong brand. It creates a unique connection with your audience, your specific audience. You establish trust and you set the stage for your business to be super successful. Online presence. Well, in our digital world, you have to have an amazing online presence. It is essential to your sales force, whether your sales force is you, or it's 10 people in a room, or it's just your customer service who's handling calls and doing upsells. When you establish your brand and you have a fantastic online presence, you will now find that the sales can be easily increased. There are some basic tools to improve your online presence and your overall branding. One, social media. You know about this. Advertising on social media and other places. Making a kick-ass website. A website, the money you spend on your website is not wasted. And then you have search engine optimization, and there's a lot of different sources you can go to. Online marketplaces, find out where people go and gather, whether it's Amazon or other places. Content marketing, and then follow-up emails. You want to capture emails, offering something free to get an email, a free ebook, a small free sample of your product, and you capture people's emails. You see it every day. I mean, I give my email away almost every day to somebody because I'm going, well, that's interesting. And then here's one of the most important things you have to do as a business owner or business manager. You have to monitor your actual online presence. You have to go look at the social media. If you have someone else doing all this for you, you need to look. And then you constantly look for ways to improve your online and digital presence. All right. So this is a quote from Forbes magazine. If you have a business and you are not building your brand and marketing on social media, you're choosing to get left behind. You want to stay ahead of the competition, and that comes from creative branding, creative social marketing, finding interesting things to share with people, and always tying it back to the purpose of your product, the purpose of who you are, what you stand for, and that you really are real. So now, why social media? Well, if you know who your exact target audience is, you'll find them somewhere in social media. Your competition is already there, probably. And if your competition is not there, that's a huge benefit for you. Social media is the simplest and easiest way to get seen by many new people. It's a quick way to reach and stay alive in the minds of a warm market. It's a great way to create a community that appreciates your story. As of 2023, 70% of the US population is active on social media. They spend an average of 2 hours and 31 minutes daily across various platforms. 87% of e-commerce shoppers say social media helps them make a shopping decision. So now, which platform for what? What brands, what products belong on what platforms? Facebook, 190 million users in America. That's over half the population. Selling to consumers, also B2B. Business to business sales happens here because there's a lot of business owners and managers online. Instagram, 120 million people. Okay, less than half the population of America, but still, it's a growing audience. Twitter, 77 million people. This is good for public relations. It also works well for tech and media. It's not a great place to sell or advertise your products. LinkedIn, obviously, B2B, recruitment, sharing your brand story. A lot of videos are seen and looked at on LinkedIn. LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram is what I use for my company, my energy company, and we reach a lot of people. My clients are billion-dollar companies, and the managers of those clients that I deal with are always saying, oh, man, I love that post you put up. I'm like, I didn't even know you're on Facebook. Pinterest. This is good for home decor, do-it-yourself, fashion, food-related products. You can put a lot of pictures up, and a lot of people go to Pinterest to find ideas for their home. TikTok. This is a younger demographic. It can promote products and services that relate to lifestyle, fashion, and any product that can be showcased as a fun and creative way of doing business. A lot of dancing, a lot of singing, a lot of interesting things on here, but it's typically a younger demographic. So now the question for you is, what social media platform is your brand currently using to promote and improve your branding? How many of you can confidently say you're using social media to effectively improve your branding today? All right, now focus on one or two social media platforms. If you focus on trying to do all social medias at once, it may be counterproductive for several reasons. It's time consuming. Your audience isn't everywhere. They usually use one or two platforms primarily. You spread yourself too thin and you lose quality. So focus on one, two, or three that really work together, social media platforms. Key questions you need to ask yourself or your marketing team when choosing which platforms to use is: one, who am I trying to reach? Two, what platforms do they use? And three, what kind of content suits that platform? All right, so what do you need to do to make your online presence felt and to make your branding grow and grow and grow in people's minds and hearts? Because remember, we're creating an intangible quality here that makes people smile when they think of you and your brand. So you post content daily and weekly. Two, you have to engage with the audience. You can't ignore them. If you put a post out and you don't react to their comments, they're going to feel ignored. Use a lot of video and visual content. People like to see things. Put your stories into live videos. Use customer-generated content. Use feedback to help promote your brand. Run advertising on social media. Monitor the heck out of the advertising because you got to strengthen the right things when you see it pop. Offer exclusive deals and promotions. This is another way to get more identities into your marketing book, meaning their emails. And then you have to analyze and then optimize what you're doing. You'll find out which things run the best, which ones get the best results, and then you optimize by putting more attention on what's more successful. And then find a way to collaborate with influencers in your market. That's a lot to do, but there are little tricks. You can check with marketing companies. You can use a content calendar. You can kind of batch a creation and put it out to multiple places at once. You can schedule posts in advance. Consider working with consider outsourcing to work with an outside agency, or hire a marketing specialist to do this for you. All right. In summary, in today's digital landscape, social media is crucial for boosting a company's branding and exposure. It provides a unique platform for businesses to express their values, connect with the global audience, and create memorable brand experiences. The extensive reach and targeting capabilities of social media enhance your visibility, your engagement with your customers, and it makes it a vital tool for businesses to remain competitive and maintain relevance in a fast-paced digital world. Remember, you want to become unforgettable in the hearts and minds of your customers, and you want to keep increasing your customer base. I hope this was helpful for you. I've been spending a lot of time and energy and money on doing exactly what I just talked to you about for the last 30 minutes. It's a powerful tool to create a brand that resonates in people's minds and hearts, and that's the intangible. This is just part one for how to increase your sales using branding and social media. We have other videos that we're going to do that will help you increase your business and learn other technical details that you need to be successful in a digital world. Have a great day.